Welcome back to another episode of the Empty Netters podcast. And much like the NHL in the start of the season, we have gone international. CP and I are here in Ibiza. We are in different rooms.
Dan, it's Ibiza.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said it right. You're the
I know.
idiot
I don't think it's Ibiza, Dan.
Yeah,
you're not hitting the TH.
I do that every time. You are the plebeian who goes around and you're like this. Yeah, I'm in Ibiza. God.
Do you say Chile? Do you say Chile? Do you say Deutschland,
No,
dude? Are you like, oh, we're in Deutschland?
I am not one of those. But Ibiza that's just how you say it.
It's just cool to say, too. Like, here's the deal. It's cooler. Say it that way.
When you get into a rhythm of it and it really starts rolling off the tongue easily, that's what that's what it's all about. But listen,
Dan and I are next to each other. You want to do a wall five?
Yeah.
Just do a wall five.
Wait. There we go. Boom.
Bang. That was nice.
Yes, CP and I are here. We're in Spain. We are doing a little bit of R&R before the season starts, but you know that we're here for you. You know we're coming in with an episode as always. And this is going to be a fun one. We're just fresh off a boat right now. And I got to say, that ride was not safe.
Dude, those were some of the biggest waves I've ever seen in my life, including in movies. I've watched movies specifically about big waves. And I'm not sure that they were any bigger than the ones I was on today.
I mean, it was one of those situations, when you're on a plane, I know not everybody does this. I do this because I'm a coward, but when you're on a plane and there's a little bit of turbulence and you start freaking out a bit, but if you just look up and you see the flight attendants walking up and down the aisles and they're just totally unfazed, they're fine. That gives you a little bit of, okay, we're going to be all right here. There were a couple of moments ripping through these waves where I was looking at the captain and the first mate, if you will, and they were both they were going like this. Like, dude, ooh, that was a bad one. And I was like, yo, you can't react this way. I feel like we're going to sink if you keep doing that.
Dude, when the first mate, who was named Lila and was quite cute, when she was filming the waves, like she was like, it's so out of control off the side of the boat, she was filming it. I was like, oh, we might be in a tad bit of trouble here, but we persevered, dude, made it through.
We did. We survived. And I'm glad we did because like last week, we had our Pacific Division breakdown and predictions. We're going to keep it rolling. We're going into the Central today. But before we get into that, we're going to get into some hot ice, but it's a special hot ice because it is now the Howie's Hockey Tape hot ice. Hot ice is being brought to you by Howie's Hockey Tape, the #1 hockey tape lace apparel company in the game. You can see it right here on my hat. You can see it right here on my shirt. Howie's, it's where it's at. They're making the best stuff and they're getting you all set up for hockey season, which makes sense while they'll get us set up for hot ice. So let's jump right into the hot ice. Really, there's not too much to talk about. Most guys have re-signed. Most guys have, jumped on their teams here. We got some interesting stuff. Gustafsson in Minnesota signs a 3-year extension. That's beautiful stuff. But the one I want to talk to you about, CP, is Patrick Kane. There's some Patrick Kane, Detroit Red Wings rumors swirling around right now, and I want to know how you feel about
it. Can you tell me, because you always know this shit, can you tell me what the Wings cap space is?
You start talking and I'll look it up right now.
Okay, so if they are, I remember looking at teams with big space when I was we had been messing around thinking about where Kane would go, and I know you want him to go to the Sabres for a million reasons, but
I do.
The Wings didn't pop up, I don't think, in the certainly not in the top 3, and I don't remember seeing them in the top 5-ish or more of space.
They have 5.1 mil.
Okay, right. So, and Kane obviously is a different player and coming off a massive injury, but was making, I got to believe, like 11 or something. And if you are, that's your whole nut. If you're Detroit, like if you get Kane and you have 5 million in space, that's your whole nut. And could you look at him like a late addition trade deadline pickup, just like the Rags did with him last year? If you just wrap your head around it that way, you're like, yeah, dude, that for that player coming in late, if he's still got juice, that's awesome. I worry a little bit on both sides, actually, Dan. I worry a little bit for Detroit in that they're building something here and they've got young talent and all that stuff. And I just don't know that you need a possibly hobbled, like slower, injured Kane. He's an incredible goal scorer, but I just don't know if you need that. And then I also worry about it on Kane's side a little bit in that he's like, I really want to go to a cup contender. And do I think Detroit can compete for cups in the coming years, fuck yeah, they're going to win 3. But I just don't know that they're the contender Kane needs now. So it's kind of confusing for me from his side too.
The Kane side, I think is a great point. Like I think if you're Kane, you've got to be looking at the reality that you're probably staring at the last 2, maybe 3 years of your career. And for Patrick Kane to be like, I'm going to go to this project, that would be surprising to me. But at the same time, not that he's in a similar situation, but we found it pretty weird when Johnny Gaudreau signed in Columbus. And it's like, sometimes I think there's more at play here than just cup chasing. Patty Kane's got his 3 cups. He doesn't need to cup chase. When he went to New York and he was like, I demand to go to the Rangers, that felt like cup chasing. So I'm with you. I do sort of feel like we're in a boat where it would be odd for Patrick Kane to pick a team like Detroit. I think Detroit is awesome, and they are going to be phenomenal for years to come. I am so excited about that project, but their goaltending could still be improved. There's certain elements of that team that we'll get into in a later episode that needs to improve. But yeah, dude, like if I'm Patrick Kane, there's got to be better options out there. But at the same time, Yzerman, dude, he's got the magic spell. He knows how to get guys to sign for this team, and he knows how to get guys to commit to his project. So it wouldn't shock me. And the bigger thing, dude, is they are good now. I mean, like people forget that. Like they have Dylan Larkin, who's amazing. They had Andrew Kopp, who's a great player. They had David Perron, who's a great player. And they had a lot of injuries last year. I said it many times. I think they would have slipped into the playoffs if they weren't injured. But they added DeBrincat. They added JT Compher. Like they are a interesting team. They added Shane Gostisbehere. Like I like the Red Wings, and I would not be shocked if Kane goes there. And I think I'm at, yes, they do have a lot of young, exciting players. I don't think Kane logjams that. Kane signing a 1-2 year deal, like who is mad about Patrick Kane being your second line winger or your third line winger? Like I don't think that's stifling anyone's production. And frankly, if Patrick Kane comes in and gets you 65 points and 30 goals, like that is well worth it. And with the injury, I think you're looking at a situation where Patrick Kane could easily sign a 2x4 or 2 year, $4 million contract, $2 million a year. And like, that is such a good deal.
Agree if he does that. I think a good point by you, Dan, is, and I don't know why Kane would want this, but if you're Detroit, like, dude, is there a more perfect picture of you and me in Ibiza? You're wearing AirPods and drinking wine, and I fucking wired in having a beer.
Yeah, dude, you are a peasant compared to me, and the world needs to know it. So this is great evidence for me.
So, if you're Detroit and you go, does Kane maybe get us into the playoff? I don't think they're a cup contender this year. I don't think you do either. But if Kane get us into the playoffs, maybe even get us in a round deep in the playoffs, and then he leaves or whatever, it's a 1 year deal. That is worth it if you're Detroit, because you're like, maybe we got a jump start on the getting experience under our belt, getting this rebuild or restructure going, whatever. So that's interesting. Last thing I'll say is your boy loves DeBrincat, eh? Like when that bromance was starting in Chicago, I just assumed it was like Kane was like, yeah, he's just a young, sick player and I want to play with him. But now he's like following him around the league. I'm like, oh, wow.
Dude, don't fall for that shit. Kane is a two-timing whore because he did the same thing with Panarin. He had Panarin in Chicago, and then he followed him to New York, and he was like, oh, I'd love to play with Panarin again. And now he's like, oh, I'd love to play with DeBrincat again. I'm going to go join him in Detroit. This guy cannot be trusted. He's a little slut.
I actually am on board with that. I support that argument.
It's unbelievable. But I think, we had reports of Kane maybe being a little bit ahead of schedule after his hip surgery. So we're looking at a situation where maybe he signs sooner than later here. I think there was a world where people thought he might be a mid-season signing, and now it's looking like this could happen pretty soon here. So that's pretty electric. So we'll keep our ears to the ground on that one. All right, like we said, quick stuff on hot ice because, again, We're about a month away from the start of the season here. Very exciting stuff. I think it's 36 days or something by the time we're recording.
The ice will be very hot then.
Oh, yeah. The Empty Netters podcast is brought to you by Howie's Hockey. Howie's is the #1 hockey tape and accessories company in the world, providing great products to NHL teams all the way down to mini-mites. The hockey season is starting up, and Howie's Back to Hockey sale is going on now through Monday, September 11th. Save up to 40% on hockey tape, laces, pucks, and anything else you need to get your season started. If your playing days are over, they have a great lineup of comfortable apparel that looks great as well, like this hat and this shirt. They fit amazing. They're comfortable as hell. Fantastic stuff. For a special offer for our listeners, use code EMPTY, EMPTY, and be entered to win tickets to your NHL team's home opener. First game of the season. Hockey is back. Enter this unbelievable opportunity using that code again, EMPTY, EMPTY, for a chance to win. Now let's get back to the episode. So let's jump right into our Central Division predictions because we've got a lot to cover. 8 teams. Let's jump into it. You want to do it just like last time? You want to go down the list of last to first?
Yep. I'm going to give you their records, and then on 3, we're going to say where we think they finish, and it might be fucked up because of Wi-Fi, but we're going to try. Okay?
Yes.
All right, we're going worst to first. I'm going to give you – you'll know where they were last year. You and I are going to say the same thing, our predictions on 3, and we're going to see if they're the same thing. Okay. Last year, Central Division, last place, Chicago Blackhawks, 26-49-7 for 59 points. Dan, they finished 8th last year. This year, they will finish in 3, 2, 1, 7th.
8th.
Okay. Wow, still the gutter, bro.
I hate to do it, honestly. I hate to do it because I listen, I've got a lot written down here. There's a lot that I like, but I just still think it's a tall order for them. And I'll tell you why. So let's get into it. Do you
please?
Okay, so here's the deal. The Hawks have $12.8 million in cap space, and that is great. But that always obviously means there's a lot going on here that you haven't given money to. You need to fill some roles on this team. They're key players. Obviously, Connor Bedard show. We're starting off. Chicago Blackhawks fans, get ready. This is a new era. You have a new team. Kane is gone. Taves is gone. All the old guard is gone. And this is Connor Bedard's team, much to the chagrin of people like Seth Jones, I would imagine. This is over. This team belongs to Connor. You've got him. You brought in some great vets like Taylor Hall. You brought in Nick Foligno, and he re-signed. That's great. You brought in Corey Perry. That's great. Other than that, you've got Tyler Johnson, Athanasiou, re-ups. That's good, sure. Ryan Donato joins the team. Ryan Donato joins the team. That's great. And on D, you've got Seth Jones, Nikita Zaitsev, Connor Murphy, and Jared Tenorti. That, I don't think, is a very good top 4 D-men. You've got Peter Mrazek in net. This team is just bad. Dude, that's it. Connor Bedard is amazing. I think he has a chance to get 70 points in his rookie season or more. I actually bet he's going to. I would put the over-under at 69. I would smash that over. But
we might have to do Bedard watch after that statement.
I'm just saying, smash that over under 69. Smash the over. Dude, this team stuck. They suck. They're bad. This is a bad hockey team. They brought in good vets, but is a 32-year-old Taylor Hall, is he making you a much, much better team? Is a wily veteran like Nick Foligno and Corey Perry making you a better team? Is that defensive core? Is Ryan Donato and Tyler Johnson, are they, are they really, really pushing this team over the edge? The answer is no. So the reality is they've got great vets who are going to be great for Connor's development, but they are a bad team. They're going to finish last in this division.
I will say to you, and I bet you didn't mean this, but in my opinion, you phrased that poorly, because does Taylor Hall and Foligno and Ryan Donato and Corey Perry and make you a good team? No. Do they make you a better team? Yes. And I don't think they're going to
better
be
than what
they were.
though? Better when they had
better
zero
than what
people
they were.
signed to the roster? Yeah, like, okay.
Well,
There was
just
no
better
one on
than
the
their
roster.
squad. Until this summer, but their squad last year, the squad they were parading out in front of their home fans 41 times, they are better than that. I almost went 8th. I think I didn't because I guess the Bedard thing, like I actually am a little bit lower on him than you guys are. How many goals do you think he scores? Like over, what are you comfortable betting on? He scores over blank goals in his rookie year.
Connor?
Yeah.
25.
Okay. So I wrote 20. And yeah, I think if he has 20, it's a great year. Or that's probably to be expected for the prospect of his caliber, 20, honestly, which is hard. But I think 20 is a good year. But I think he'll score. I think Taylor Hall gives you goals. Not a ton, but I think he gives you goals. I think Corey Perry gives you goals. These guys are going to get a ton of ice time. So I think they could be a little better. I went 7th. I will say this, dude, to the people out there. And I'm not saying this is like a rational take we're hearing a lot, but obviously a lot of Chicago fans are excited. And I'm hearing playoffs. I'm hearing, 100 points, like all this shit. And I looked this up because I was curious and I actually didn't remember, but this is a little bit of a wake up call. The Penguins' first year with Crosby, 22, 46, and 14, 58 points, 5th in the Met. The Oilers' first year with McDavid, 31, 43, and 8, 70 points, 7th in the Pacific. It takes a second. So
yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying.
The Hawks are going to be bad.
And don't get it twisted. It's going to be fun. Blackhawks fans, you're going to have a blast. It's going to be fun watching this kid. He's going to do some things that blow everyone's mind, but the Blackhawks are not going to be in the playoffs. And what's tough, dude, is this division is not as bad as I think some people think. I think some people look at maybe the bottom four, what could be the bottom four of this division, and think, oh, they're terrible, they're this, they're that. They're not. But because of how crazy of a roster overhaul they had, that is why I think they're still going to be 8th. I don't think they're going to be miserable, but they're just there's just too much riding on the shoulders, and it actually gets me into a question. Some thoughts went around on Twitter about them possibly handing over the C to Connor Bedard, as in the captain of the team. And I want you, while I go on a bit of a rant here, I appreciate that thumbs down, dude. I want you to look up for me how early Crosby was named captain. Because I'm pretty sure he's one of the earliest ever. I think he was like 19 years old. And I'm so interested what people think. I might throw this up on the story on Instagram to get people's thoughts, because I think it is insane when you give a kid that young the C on the jersey. Because here's the thing. Anyone who's been in a locker room, that more often than not, there's more than one leader on the team. There's a lot of guys who are pulling the weight as far as the leadership goes. And in this circumstance, if you were to give Bedard the C, I just think it's so disrespectful to not the veterans of Chicago, because there's not really that many, right? It's like Seth Jones and Athanasi are the big ones that come to mind who are still on the team. It's the guys who are in their late 20s, the guys who are in their 30s on the team, like a guy like Corey Perry and a guy like Nick Foligno, who are on this team. If you all of a sudden go, Connor Bedard is the captain of this team, and you're sitting in a locker room, here's the deal. If you're the captain, if you have the C on your sweater, you have to address the boys pregame. You have to do captain duties. And if you've got an 18-year-old who's never played a second in the NHL being like, all right, Corey Perry, all right, Nick Foligno, this is what I need from you. If I'm one of those guys, I'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude. I don't give a shit how good you are or how good you will be. That is just such a crazy move. So I'm so against that. I think throw an A on his sweater, absolutely, if you want. If you want to kind of institute, this is a new day for Chicago and this kid's going to be a leader, I'm into that. But making him the captain would be insane.
Especially because I feel like them bringing in all these old vets, the pitch was like, teach him, like be here to mentor him. And then if you immediately are like, anyway, Bedard's captain, if I'm one of the vets, I'm like, fuck you, dude. What was the point of any of this? To answer your question, Dan, Crosby was named captain at age 19 years, 297 days. Then McDavid became captain at 19 years, 266 days. So he is now the youngest person to ever become a captain. Crosby's the youngest to ever lift a cup.
Well, hold on. McDavid is the youngest to ever be named captain, and then it's Crosby.
Yep. By
yeah, so
29 days, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think the model here is that clearly worked for Pittsburgh.
Let him play 2 years.
Yeah, that clearly worked for Pittsburgh. It's presumably worked for Edmonton. They're a great team. They haven't won a cup, but they're a great team, and obviously Connor is a leader and became what everyone thought he was going to become. But the reality here is you play without a captain this season, and you make him captain next year, probably, is what will happen. But anything this year would just be preposterous.
Agree. Okay, going to the next team. They finished 7th last year, Dan, in the Central. It's the Desert Dogs. The Arizona Coyotes, they went 28-40 and 14 for 70 points. Dan, they finished 7th last year. This year, they will finish in 3, 2, 1, 6th.
6th.
Oh, let's go.
I wanted to say 5th.
I thought you were going to say 3, dude. You're unhinged when it comes to the Dogs.
The Desert Dogs are finishing 1st in the Central. Listen, I really wanted to say 5th. I really wanted it. The Desert Dogs are going to be so fun this season, and I'm telling you right now, the winds are blowing differently in the desert. They're going to figure something out. They're going to stay in Arizona. This team has grit. They have great players.
Oh.
Here's the deal. Arizona has $3.9 million cap space. We like that. They've got huge key players in Clayton Keller, who just had a career year, 86 points. Look for that to go higher this year, maybe sniffing that 100 zone. Nick Schmaltz, unbelievable. Logan Cooley signs. Absolute stud for Minnesota. He is going to be a monster rookie on this team. Also, look at Cooley in the Calder watch. Just saying. And then there's a few other players, like Michelli, 49 points in 64 games. That's big stuff. Gunther is going to be a big name on this team. He had 15 and 33 with the Yotes last year and 29 and 20 with the Thunderbirds. Like this, that is a good young player that's going to step into a bigger role in this team. They added huge players with Dumba, Durzi. Durzi was traded from the Kings mid-season. Dumba signed there. Zucker signed there. Bukestad and Kerfoot all signed there. And listen, Karel Vejmelka is a very good goaltender. Like, that is very, very exciting. He's on a great deal for 2 more years. I just think this is a season for the Desert Dogs to kind of establish themselves. Like, you're playing in Mullet again. You know the arena. There's no changes. Everyone knows what's going on. You've added some really great pieces, dude. Like, Durzi needs to clean up his defensive game, but he is going to give you a lot of good points from the blue line there. He's a young player. He's going to have a new chip on his shoulder being dealt by LA and want to establish himself in a new home in Arizona. Dumba, dude, was the number 1 D-man for Minnesota. He was the guy. And then things just weren't working out in Minnesota, so he needs a new start, a fresh arena, fresh team. He's got it. He's playing with these guys. I just think there is a world where you've added some really good middle 6 and bottom 6 depth to this team that's going to help out guys like Keller, Schmaltz, Cooley, and Gunther. And you have an opportunity to make the Coyotes, let's be real, not the punchline anymore. And they have been, with Mullet, with how much they've struggled the last couple of years, they have been a bit of a punchline. And I think that this is going to be the season where they step out of that and they assert themselves as a very exciting young and up and coming team.
I think you are higher on them than I am, like when you actually spell it out, but obviously we both have them at 6. I think I like some of those signings a lot. I like Kerfoot. Durzi I'm a huge fan of. Bukestad, like you said, I think they became tougher to play against, right? Like they bolstered some of the middle. Dumba is an interesting one because I feel like half of Minnesota was like, get him out of here, dude. And I think you're right. Maybe a change of scenery does wonders for him. But if not, you didn't bring in Keith and Seabrook with the Dumba Durzi combo coming in, I think they got tougher to play against, and I think they can go up one place. But I'm like, they can go up one place, and I think you are more excited, like 6, almost 5, bitch. I'm on the lower end of 6, but I think they're better. I think they're a better team. We'll get into it, but I got that the repercussions of that prediction means some craziness for some other teams in the Central here. So that's looming.
Can we say real quick, CP, you don't think they're better. They're definitely better.
Yes, sorry.
I think you look at those moves. This is a better team.
Totally agree. Before we get off the Coyotes, I want to ask you, because I flagged it, but you kind of said it yourself, but what do you think Keller can do this year? Because I really do think they have some exciting players, but he is the cream of the crop on that team. He's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And I'm curious, you mentioned 100. I was going to ask, do you think he goes 100 this year, or is it not quite there yet?
I wouldn't say. I'm not hammering that one. I think
Me neither.
I think Keller will be between 80 and 100. I think over 90 is very, very reasonable.
Oh my God. Oh, I think that'll be very great. Like if he has a 92-point season, I think they are. I mean, obviously they're thrilled, but I think I'd have the ceiling around there.
Yeah,
but I love him. He's nasty.
If he stays healthy, he is certainly over point per game is what I'm saying.
He's a 100-point guy in his life. I don't know if it's next year, but he's a 100-point guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Next we go to the team that finished 6th in the Central. That would be your St. Louis Blues. They went 37, 38, and 7 with 81 points. Dan, they were 6th last year. This year, they will finish in 3, 2, 1, 8th.
7th. Yeah, I don't hate it.
Let me start with this one.
I don't hate it at all.
It's this is what I meant when I said there are repercussions of my Arizona pick. Like that felt hard even as I wrote it for the Blues. I think they are, it's almost not a knock on the Blues as much as it is that I think the bottom of the Central is getting better. I think last year, or what did I say? I wrote it down. The Hawks had 26 wins and finished in last. And the Blues won 37 this year. Do I think the Blues are losing 11 wins? No, I do not. I just think there's a chance the bottom half of this division is getting a little harder to play against, a little bit more competitive within the interdivision games. And maybe the loser of this division has 30 wins and St. Louis loses 7. I think the Habs won 31 games last year and finished fucking 8th in the Atlantic. So, it's like, I'm not saying the Blues are going to a tailspin. I just think they could maybe win 30 games and be last, dude. That's all I'm saying.
Dude, I don't hate it at all. I mean, the Blues are interesting for me because there are great players on this team. But the reality is, since their Clown Car Cup in 2019, which it was, Blues fans.
Pour one out for the Bees.
They've been such a weird, floundering team that for a couple of years posed as a playoff team, and they're just not. And now they're just bad, and they're selling off assets like fucking Michael Jackson. And it's just a bizarre squad to look at. You look at they've got $293,000 in cap space. So it's not like they've got a ton of wiggle room. Their key players are Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Braden Shen, and Pavel Buchnevich, who, by the way, quietly phenomenal players, 67 points in 63 games last year. So I'm not sleeping on any of these guys. Kyrou's great. Any team would be lucky to have him. Robert Thomas is a great player. So are Shen and Buchnevich. But these aren't world beaters. I'm not necessarily sure I look at Kyrou and Thomas, who are probably your top 2 players, and I go, those are 2 guys you build a team around. So that's why I think they're in a weird spot, because when you look at the lack of cap space they have, and those are like their top 2 guys, you kind of have to ask some questions here. And they traded for Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes was run out of Philly in the weirdest way I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't think Kevin Hayes is done in the NHL. I think Kevin could easily pop 60 for this Blues team. They get
how many goals he had last year?
I don't remember. But, he was an all-star last year, which is like one of those funny things. But Kasperi Kapanen was scooped up. And, he had a decent little 14 points in 23 games for them. But the big thing for me is this. The Blues defensive core, their top 4 guys are, from the bottom up, if you will, Scandella, Leddy, Parayko, Krug, and Falk are 5 dudes on their D-core. They are 33, 32, 30, 32, and 31 respectively. And together they make up 32.1% of their cap space, which is 23.5 mil. Of those guys, so you've got 5 defensemen making 32% of your cap who are all 30 or over. Falk had 50 points in 82 games. Great season for a defenseman. Krug had 32 and 63. Parayko had 27 and 79. Leddy had 23 and 78. And Scandella had 2 and 20. Scandella is hurting you, and he's making over $3 million a year. Krug has had trade rumors all summer long. Like, they want him gone. Krug wants to be gone. I just look at these 5 defensemen who are all over 30. They're eating up a good portion of your cap. Other than Falk, no one's really performing that well. They don't have crazy contracts. Krug and Falk are both making 6.5 a year, I think. I think that has to be a situation where you think about blowing it up, dude. I mean, if you're this Blues team, you've got Binner signed for the next few years, who is the most volatile player in the NHL, possibly. I mean, he's had some great playoff performances, but he's very wishy-washy and up and down when it comes to his regular season performances. He's a hothead of a dude. I just don't really know what you feel like if you're a Blues fan. And if you're in this front office, are you going, yeah, we're close to the playoffs here? Because I don't think you are. And clearly, I said 7th, you said 8th. Like, if I'm the Blues, I'm looking at a lot of these guys in their 30s or older, and I'm like, dude, offload players here, I think, because this just isn't the team. You know, you've lost Tarasenko, you've lost Ryan O'Reilly. It's like, these guys are not doing it. And I think they already are, and you need to be really thinking about trading some of these dudes.
It felt like at the nearing the deadline this past season, I think they were making a run. Maybe I'm completely misremembering this, but I swear it was, like you said, they were kind of in that limbo of like, oh, the Blues, they get hot, they might get in. And if they start this season slow, but I was going to say look for carnage at the trade deadline, because I agree with you, kind of blow it up. But they don't really have carnage to give up. Like, they're not a team that's like, holy shit, they just traded Kane. You know, it's like they're keeping Kyrou and Thomas. So, like, who the fuck do you want them to trade?
And like Buchnevich, like, you've got to keep players like him too. But like, I think you just nailed it, dude. Like, I think you've got to look at guys like Krug, and I would even say Leddy and Parayko, guys who are good leaders, who are still producing, who aren't really helping you get over the hump. You've got to trade those guys. You have to.
I think that's right. I just think they're going to struggle. They didn't score a ton. They had Kyrou had a lot, but then they had like 2 guys over 20. I think it was Buchnevich and Shen maybe. But like they're in trouble. Binner is like, I mean, you nailed it. Like, he can be great. I know he has greatness in him. I fucking saw it, unfortunately, 4 times in my eyeball. But there's just too much inconsistency up and down that lineup right now. They got some exciting things to build around, but I'm like, this year ain't it for me.
Yeah, agree.
Next team we got is the Preds. They finished 5th in the Central last year. They went 42, 32, and 8 with 92 points, had scared the playoffs. 5th last year. Dan, this year, they will finish in 3, 2, 1, 5th. Oh,
4.
Okay. You a Preds guy.
I'm a Preds guy, I think, dude.
I have made some choices moving forward in this episode that do something that I did last year in my playoff predictions too, which was really relying on goaltending. And we'll get to those choices later. But I want to apologize in advance to Preds fans, because I think Saros is a tremendous netminder, and I didn't really extend him or the Preds the same courtesy in this prediction, because the way I'm riding goalies, like I always do on some other teams, I could have been riding the Preds just as hard. So I want to get that apology out of the way.
Okay.
You can tell me why you feel good about 4th. And as you do, tell me if you think that includes a playoff berth.
Okay. I'm not sure it includes a playoff berth. I'm gonna get. Let me just rip that.
Almost definitely does. Not definitely, but like you have a good chance if you're fourth. But yeah, go on.
Yes, I'm not guaranteeing it. That's all I'm saying. Let me say this, dude. I love what the Preds are doing. I am all in. I'm all in on what Barry Trotz is doing. Like, he has come in and he has made this team his own. He has made some hard decisions. He has done some wild shit, and I love it. They've got 7.9 million cap space. Insert eye emoji here, because that team having that cap space, that's very intriguing, dude. Very intriguing.
Yep.
They've got huge players on this team. Roman Josi, UC Saros, Philip Forsberg, Ryan McDonough, Tyson Barrie. They offloaded big names, leaders, dude.
Yeah.
Matt Duchene. Like, oh my God. Matt Duchene released.
I was stunned.
From this team. Stunned. Ryan Johansson traded to Colorado. Stunning. Like, wild stuff. But they made great moves, dude. Cody Glass gets re-signed for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan O'Reilly signs a 4-year deal. A good deal, too. Luke Shen signs a 3-year deal. Gus Nyquist signs a 2-year deal. This is a really good example of some, not just vets for depth's sake, but like good vets being brought into the team. Ryan O'Reilly is going to fit in so perfectly in this city and on this team. He is the type of guy that's going to make a player like Philip Forsberg sing and be much better, sing alongside him, playing guitar. Like, you're going to have a great year. And when Flip is healthy again, which should be soon, that is very, very exciting. And you've also, dude, you have quietly very, very good young players on this team. Philip Tomasino had 18 and 31 last year. That's a good showing from a young guy who's 21 years old, I think. So look for him to take a big leap. But the guy I want to talk about is Luke Evangelista. Luke Evangelista, 2 years ago, absolutely shit on juniors, playing for the London Knights, had 111 points in 62 games, was an absolute stud. And then last year, he was brought up during the really tumultuous times for this team, and he had 15 points in 23 games. And then when he was playing for the Milwaukee Admirals in the A, he had 41 and 49. So, like, Luke is set to have a really good opportunity to step into this team, play with some really strong vets, and have a big season. I just like the Preds, dude. Like, Roman Josi, Shen, Tyson Barrie, like, you've Ryan McDonough, like, you've got a solid defensive core. You have one of the best goalies in the league. You've added good players. It's a great city. The guys love playing there. There's good vibes, especially if the team's doing well. I just think there's a lot of upside in Nashville.
Me too. It's an incredible city. Any free agent would want to go there. You named all the guys I was going to name. They, like, what did we just say about Arizona? They got tougher to play. They got better in the middle. That is awesome. And my biggest issue, dude, is they had such a hard time scoring last year. Where were the goals coming from? And I don't know that they've solved that problem. You want to believe, well, maybe they would say goals are coming from a healthier Flip Forsberg, because you want more than 50 games. You want more than 50 games from him. Ryan O'Reilly is a good player. Is our goals coming from him? Are goals coming from kids that they're lighting up juniors? I just don't know. UC Saros is that nasty boy, dude. He's that nasty boy, and I love him, but he is one man. And I just don't know that this team can score enough to get themselves in the playoffs. Maybe they can, but that's my fear, and that's why I have them.
That's all it is, though, right? Because, yes, UC Saros is that boy. He's a dirty, dirty boy. But so is the defense in front of him. That's a really strong top two pairing in your decor. And what their problem was last year, early on in the season, Dutchie came on the podcast and he talked about how hard it was to come by goals for that team that season for some reason. And that, I think, was a one-off problem. Like, I really do think at the end of the day, when you look at the players out and the players in, it feels like a bit of a step up, and you have this opportunity for some of the younger guys to get a year older and a year better. So I think that there's a chance that those goals are going to come a little bit easier, and bang, you're doing a much better job than you did last year.
I'm really interested to see where, and don't tell me yet, but if they jump to fourth, I'm really interested to see who is falling in your rankings. Let's move on, but that will be an exciting one, because that's another team that was flirting with the playoffs all year, right? And it felt like a couple breaks go their way, they might be in, and they have the tools. They got to find some goals.
Yeah.
Okay. Taking a quick break from the episode to tell all of you guys about our new deal that we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using the BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, do it right now. Use bonus code NETTERS200. That's NETTERS200, and you will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly when placing your first wager of at least $10 with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code NETTERS200. 2. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any team. 3. You will receive $200 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. Just make sure you use bonus code NETTERS, that's NETTERS200, when you sign up. Disclaimer, BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus to wager. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Missouri, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's HOPENY 467-369 for New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. And call 1-800-BETS-OFF for Iowa. Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan, in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code NETTERS200. That's NETTERS200, and get your $200 in bonus bets when placing a $10 wager today. All right, back to the episode. 4th in the Central last year, the Winnipeg Jets. They went 46, 33, and 3. Isn't that 3 crazy? 3 OT wins.
Insane.
For 95 points. Dan. They were 4th.
No, that's 3 OT losses.
Yes, sorry. And but equally crazy. Like, I can't believe that their number is 3 there. That's got to be close to the lowest in the league.
Yeah.
4th last year. This year, they will finish in 3, 2, 1. 3rd. 5th. You motherfucker, dude.
This might be, especially in the top half, one of our biggest differences yet. So I'm super excited to hear what happens here. So you can start.
Okay. So I think, like I was saying about Nashville, and my apology to Nashville, I'm really diving in on some goalies. I think Hellebuck is fantastic. Are you high? Do you not like Hellebuck, or am I making that up?
Hellebuck's unbelievable. I
think he is just so strong and has best goalie in the league in him still, if he's up for it. You know, I put a lot on him going into the playoffs. I thought they would be better. I thought he would steal games. He didn't really. I mean, obviously they ran into a wagon, but I expect him to play. I'm trying to remember the odds. We saw them, Dan. Do you remember who the Vezina finalists were?
Last year?
Yeah.
Ullmark.
Hellebuck, Sorokin. That was the other one.
Yeah. Sorokin and Hellebuck.
I swear to God, Hellebuck had the next best odds in Vegas. Ullmark's odds were insane, obviously, because he had the most preposterous season ever. But I was like, Hellebuck's odds were right there. And, you know, whatever the fuck, we love the odds. Fuck Vegas odds. We love BetMGM odds. But But, Hellebuck could win the Vezina this year. So you've got a tremendous goaltender, which makes you a threat. I'm not saying they're winning the division. I just think like they are a threat to steal a lot of games. You lose PLD, who is a great player. And we think, you and I collectively think, that his ceiling in his career, and certainly on this Kings team, which I think we talked about last ep, is high. I think he can do great things there. You know, 80-point season. But he wasn't having 80-point seasons before. He wasn't lighting the world on fire. So that loss isn't like you lost what I think he'll become. You just lost what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
In return, you get AI. You get Gabe Vilardi, Gabe fight for your right to Vilardi, who felt like he was just entering his breakout party, right? Like, I think there's juice there that you picked up that I like a lot. And I swear to fucking God, Kyle Connor will score 50 goals one of these days. And it just might be this season, Dan. It just might be this season.
It could be. It could
So
be.
There's a lot to like there, right?
Definitely, man. Listen, I'm not hating on the Jets here, but I am going to say some things that are sketchy for you. So Strap in. They lost PLD. Like that one's tough, but I don't think it's devastating. I think PLD kind of played all last year with sort of this aura around him that was like, this isn't necessarily where I want to be. So that's obviously going to factor into how you play, and he still played great. But, he's gone. Wheeler, dude. Wheeler gets waived and released. He's now with the Rangers. That one is I borderline need a 30 for 30 on Blake Wheeler. Like, I need to know what happened with that team and that guy. Like, why in the world was he treated the way he was treated? Whatever, we'll move on from that. They've got Kyle Connor, they've got Mark Scheifele, they've got Nikolai Ehlers, they've got Josh Morrissey, they've got Connor Hellebuck. They just added Iafallo, Velarde, and Kupari. Yes, this is a good team. I like that they added LB, dude. I can't believe you didn't mention your boy LB. LB was, making his little name for himself, and you said the world will know LB's name when he was fighting for a cup on Vegas. Now he's there backing up Hellebuck.
But it was always Hill then. But it was always Hill.
It was always Hill. Always, dude. But the weird situation for me with Winnipeg is we're hearing all this weird chatter about like guys don't want to play there. I think it's great that you have this PLD trade, and obviously that's a condition of the trade, but Velarde and Kupari both sign extensions immediately. Iafallo is already locked up, so that's great. You've got three very solid players there. Alex Iafallo is going to get you 20 goals. He's going to be an all-over-the-sheet type of guy. He can play any position. He can penalty kill. He's an absolute weapon. Agree, Velarde has a ton of goal-scoring potential. He's also injury-prone, dude, and I am worried about that. The biggest things for me here are Scheifele and Hellebuck. Scheifele and Hellebuck. Scheifele is UFA next year. I actually don't know Hellebuck. I think he might be, or maybe it's a year out. Look that up for me while I'm talking. But those two guys are dudes that we hear about every single day on NHL Twitter in trade rumors. It feels like there's a world where there's internal dialogue going on where these guys want out. And if that is the case, you look at this Jets team as not a blow it up situation at all. I mean, listen, dude, if you lose Hellebuck, that is VBAD.
They're both UFA next year.
Okay, so they both are. So you've got a situation going into this year with realistically your captain. I mean, like, let's call it what it is. Scheifele is your captain. And now your star goalie, who is a top 5 goalie in the NHL. Both of them are unsigned. You really start to wonder here, like, if they aren't coming back, what are we doing? Now, in the case of them, you could see how the season goes, trade them both at the deadline if you're out of the playoffs, and get a king's ransom. I think that's what I would do. And you are faced with the decision or the future of, are they coming back or not? And I think so much hinges on that, dude. Because this team on paper is actually pretty solid, but they underperformed last year and they lost PLD, got back these 3 really solid players from the Kings. Is that enough to replace him and Wheeler? I don't know. And if it's not, you're looking at a 5th place finish in the Central, and you're looking at missing playoffs. You're looking at Scheifele and Hellebuck, unrestricted free agents in the summer. And if they don't sign, you literally have to trade both of them at the deadline. And that is what I am seeing.
So I forgot Hellebuck was UFA. I knew Scheifele was, and I was going to bring that up in a second to say, I don't even think doing the top 100 has really helped with this, but I don't even think people realize how good Mark Scheifele is.
They have no idea, dude.
Like,
they have no
it's
idea.
Crazy.
You know what's crazy? We did our last season, early pod fans remember this. We did our top most underrated guys in the league list. Bro, Scheifele is top 5 on underrated guys in the NHL. That dude is a perennial point per game player. He's getting 35 plus goals. Like, he is so good. And he throws the body around too, dude. He absolutely bundles people. So,
and one thing I had flagged with him on my prediction here is, does that affect him? Right? Like, because some players, they're thinking about the contract, whatever. But I actually think, dude, he's 31. Like, he's trying to get paid again and show off. So I think coming into a UFA year, maybe the best thing that could happen for him and Hellebuck to be like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm about to ball out and then get my worth either here or somewhere else if they don't want to play there. And that could, you don't need, you hope you don't lose them, but just need to win now, baby. So like if they both play great and you have a great season, maybe it helps keeping them, So I think with those factors combined, I think they have a good chance. The locker room thing, we brought that up in the playoffs that we didn't like their locker room. And as much as I love Blake Wheeler, maybe that was part of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's addition by subtraction, right? So I think they added some really nice pieces, and I think their big toys could shine this year. And I like them third.
I don't hate that. I don't hate it. I think I know who you're saying is fourth. But I don't know, dude. I think I'm so nervous about Hellebuck and Scheifele. And this is one of those things, man, where maybe it's like Pasta last season and they both just extend. And then I'm like, oh, these guys are fine. Because Scheifele's 30 years old. It's like that could be the core still. And they're just yet to work out an extension. So we'll see. But I do worry about that. And I think that's why I have them slightly behind the fourth place team.
And dude, you said they underperformed. I don't know. I kind of think they performed last year.
No, dude. No, absolutely not. The Jets of 2 years ago were a wagon, dude. And that was a playoff series that people were straight up scared of. And then this year, talk to any Jets fan coming into this past season, Jets fans were like, we're making a fucking run at the cup here. And then just the locker room fell apart. And they kind of like weirdly snuck into the playoffs. And then
pretty good. Like eighth in the West.
They lost to Vegas in round one. And that was 5 or 6 games. Because I remember it being the most.
I think they won the first game and then got buried.
It was the most uninteresting playoff series ever. Like they were in and out as fast as they arrived, and it was just unbelievable.
Okay, well, on that topic, the team that got in ahead of them, third in the Central, the Minnesota Wild, 46, 25, and 11 for 103 points. They were third last year, Dan. This year, they will finish in 3, 2, 1. Fourth. Yeah, you like them staying.
I do. Do you want me to start?
No, I'll go.
Okay.
Last year, Flower started 45 games, I think. And Gus started, 37 or whatever the math is there. That Gus is going to start 50 games this year. That is going to completely flip. I think Gus, you like that?
Yep.
Gus is fantastic. I think you are greatly aided by that situation. I think Matt Boldy could score 40 fucking goals this year. So that's exciting as hell if you're up there. But they didn't bring in that much. Like I think this team has lost in the first round or hasn't got past the first round since 2015. They're the new Leafs. You coined them the new Leafs, and they are. So they're the new Leafs. And when I look at this team, I'm like, and I know this is just standing prediction, but I'm like, are you getting out of the first round? I'm like, hell no. And I'm not even sure you're in anymore. Gus is big, Boldy's big, but I'm more excited by the Jets ads, I think, and the potential of their toys in contract years than I am about this Minnesota team. It's close, but I'm more excited about the Jets' possibilities.
I think that is a crazy take. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to be like way more excited about one or the other, but the interesting thing for me is they didn't do much, dude. Like as far as
that's what I'm saying,
people, they didn't really do anything, which I don't think is acceptable. But the reality is they have 1.6 million cap space, so they can't do that much. They have huge key players, though. Krill is an absolute weapon. I think Boldy is emerged as such an exciting young player last season. He's only going to get better. I think Joel Eriksson Ek is very underrated. Spurgeon is phenomenal on the back end, as well as Brodin. Yeah. Gustafson re-signing and becoming the certified starter for that team, for me, is why they are going to stay in third and I think probably be better this year. And let's just jump right to that, dude. You need to trade Flower. I think it is insane that dude is still on this team. I know that the tandem situation is great, but dude, you have to trust someone in your system or like trade him and get someone else. I don't know, but you need to move on. Like Flower being the second fiddle doesn't work because I think Flower can still play and give you 45 starts. And there's just so many teams that I think could use that. I don't know if he'd do it because of the Chicago ties, but like Detroit is one of them. Like, does Flower look better in that for the Red Wings than Ville Husso? I think yes. I
Really?
mean, it's like, dude, I would send him back to Chicago. Like Peter
Yeah.
Mrazek, like go trade him to Chicago, who has a ton of cap space. Let him retire back where it all started and be a upgrade in net for the Chicago Blackhawks. And you free up that space and you get a little bit of cap room if you're Minnesota. I don't get keeping him as the second fiddle to Gustafsson because he is the second fiddle to Gustafsson.
Oh,
And I
yes,
don't think
absolutely.
that and I don't think that tandem is as good or as necessary, maybe is the better word, that as they think it is. So that is what I would do there. Again, I'm shocked with how little they did.
Wait. If Flower was like, "Oh, I'm good, dude. I'm 30 fucking whatever. He's old as shit." And if he says, "I'm this age, let me give you 30 games. I'll be rested. I'll be good. Let me give you 30, 35 games." And Gus is the guy. Don't you keep that if you're Minnesota? If he said that, aren't you like, yeah, sweet?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like they don't make neither of them make that much money. So you're not like that's not where you're hurting in the cap. For me, it's like I think you could get something for him. That's why I'm saying trade him. I'm not saying trade him to get him off your books. I'm saying a team could use him. So see if you can get something for an older guy like that. If you have the opportunity, do it. He obviously has to say yes. That's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, I mean, like this team added Pat Maroon. And like
so they're winning the cup then.
Yeah, seriously. No disrespect to Big Rig. I fucking love him, and he's an unbelievable guy and a great person to have in the locker room. But when you look at all these other teams, all the moves that they've made for them to do this when they are becoming the new Leafs, where they haven't been out of the first round in fucking 10 years, it's like you got to do more than that, guys. So I think there is a bit of pressure on Billy G here. Some of the young guys in this team, Marco Rossi is interesting to me. 51 points in 53 games with the Iowa Wild, but he was a 9th overall pick. So like that is a high draft pick you need to perform. He had 1 assist in 19 games with the Wild last season. Like you're worried about that kid, and I think that he needs to step into a more serious role here. So the Wild, dude, I really love this team. I love their top talent. I think it's great. This is another one that I've put into the category of the league is better when the Wild are good. When Minnesota hockey is good, that is good for the league. So I want them to finish third. I want them to be a good contender. But they have things that need to happen. Like Gus needs to be the guy. Spurgeon needs to be healthy. Brodin needs to be healthy. Rossi needs to come into his own, or do you think about trading him, dude? I mean, like that's a high pick with high value, and if he's not performing at this point, you got a problem. So I believe in the Wild, but I love your concerns. So I'm not saying either one of us is right.
I would say the reason for the flip flop for me is because you said a bunch of great things. I think Krill could have 100 points again, right? If he plays enough. Mm-hmm. I think Hellebuck has a better year than Gus. And I'm kind of I'm pushing my chips in on that because you're right. That could swing this. If Hellebuck's fine and Gus gets 50 starts and is nasty, then the Wild are in the playoffs. But I'm gonna roll with Helly for this season.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, the second place team from last year in the Central, the Dallas Stars. They went 47, 21, and 14 with 108 points. Damn, they were second last year. This year, you ready?
Yeah.
This year,
I know you're going to do it. You're wrong. You're wrong.
This year, they will be 3, 2, 1. First.
No,
buddy.
No. All right, let me.
I got news for you, dude. Just so you know, I have been told by people close to me that things are bigger in Texas, including Stanley Cup parties, which they will also be having this year. Just so you know, dude, just so you know, they're first in the Central.
They're not going to do it. If they were to do it, they would need Ottinger to have a Linus Ullmark type season. And I'm not saying he can't do it. Yeah.
That's easy.
I'm not saying he can't do that because Otter is elite. The Stars have zero cap space, which is so unacceptable.
Don't need it.
Their key players are Robo, Rupe Hintz, Miro Heiskanen, Pavelski, Wyatt Johnson. Is what I consider. And Otter. Their key ads are probably Dutchy, is what I would say. Great home for him. He's going to love Dallas just like he loved Nashville. Dutchy is a really solid middle six guy. I think the unfortunate reality is most mock-ups of this lineup have him slotted in as a third liner, and I don't think Dutchy's going to like that at all. I think he probably considers himself a top six forward, as he should, and as I think he is. But we'll see how that works out. There's two things I want to say. Rupe Hintz just signed an 8-year at $8.45 million contract. Great deal for a top 50 player in the league, in my opinion. Rupe is unbelievable. He's playing out of his mind. What is not talked about enough in the NHL is that Robo has 3 years left at 7.7 mil and is still RFA at the end of that. That might be the best contract in the NHL.
Oh my God, dude. It's a steal.
Like, let's really talk about that. People always talk about, like, who are some of the best contracts in the league. Brad Marchand brought up all the time. That's an absolutely great one to bring up. Robo being a over 100-point guy, being, frankly, the face of this franchise now at 7.75 for 3 more years and is RFA at the end of it. That is the best contract in the league.
It's moronic, dude.
I don't even think it's a question. It's unbelievable. But what's nuts to me is when you've got guys like Miro Heiskanen making under 9 a year, who is a top 5 D-man in the league, no question about it. You've got Rupe Hintz and you've got Robo, both making under 9 a year. When you are this cap crunched, that is brutal, dude. And it always comes back to your boy Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Ryan Suter. Those 3 contracts are absolutely devastating this team. And what's interesting, man, is Jamie Benn had a good season last year.
Yeah, I want to talk about this.
People wrote him and Seguin off. They both started the year playing pretty well. Seguin dipped off a little bit, but he still had a decent year, but he's making way too much money. Ben had a good year last year, no matter how you slice it.
Bad ending
To your season. And Ben, especially with his suspensions and his performance in the playoffs, dude, people fucking hate Jamie Benn amongst NHL fans. We were shocked to see that.
Yeah.
Last year, we started talking about some stuff that was going on. People hate that, dude. We said this when we talked about this in the playoffs. I have no idea how Jamie Benn is in the locker room. I have no idea what type of guy he is, but it feels like there is a changing of the guard going on in Dallas.
Yeah.
And it feels like, from an outsider, from a fan looking in, when you look at the performances on the ice and the vibes of the team, dude, I'm telling you, this has happened many times in the NHL. A very prominent one is when Craig Conroy ripped off the C and gave it to Jerome McGinley because he was like, dude, it's a new time in Calgary. You are the leader of this team. Jamie Benn needs to take off his captaincy and give it to Miro Heiskanen, in my opinion. If you want to say Robo, fine. But either way, this team belongs to Robo, Miro, and Hintz. And you need to let that momentum happen. Like, Seguin and Ben were the guys for a little while. They made it to a cup. They didn't win. But now here we are. These guys are constantly brought up every season as a anchor that's dragging this team down, and yet they finish second in the Central. Like, dude,
by like a point.
You do need to, however, acknowledge that it's like this is a new era. And here's the deal, dude. I've said it a million times. I would fucking trade those two. I don't think anyone's trading for Suter at this point. I would trade Sagan and Ben so fast it would make your fucking head spin off your body like a top. And I still think that they should do that. Like, I'm sitting here saying Jamie Benn just had a great year. Trade him now. Get what you can back for the both of them, which, by the way, wouldn't be bad stuff at all. It would be totally acceptable stuff. And you give the leadership roles to these younger guys who are frankly the leaders already, and you continue. This is not a rebuild at all.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
You
Correct.
continue with this great momentum in Dallas, but I just think moving on from those two would be good for the trajectory of this team and so good for the cap space. I think it is a no-brainer.
The part of my argument hinges on a lot what you said, and I really like your take in that if you could get something back from them, you don't really hurt this squad because you could probably get production at the level back. The question, which you kind of brought up too, is who's taking those contracts, and maybe no one. So that's something to think about. You can't just, it's not like an easy move. Robo had his coming out party. I think he's going nowhere. Incredibly talented player. Joey Tiptrill's not slowing down. Hintz, Heiskanen, beast.
Hold on, Chris. Joey Tiptrill might slow down. He's 39 years old.
He's not. Dude. That's the thing about Joey Tiptrill, dude. Like, I assure you, he's not slowing down. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how he's doing it. No one knows how he's doing it. I'm just telling you he's not slowing down. So that's that. That's that. We're not talking about this anymore.
I think you might be right, dude. He is unbelievable. And also is in the underrated conversation. But there is just a world where we have to believe that Ben, Sagan, and Pavelski all might regress. They're like, it is what it is, dude. And I don't think Sagan and Ben's contracts are immovable. I don't. We've seen so many guys who have quote unquote terrible contracts get dealt. And
people eat those three-way deals are nice now, like three-team trades. Everyone likes a good three-way. Totally. And it's the money works, the money changes hands, everyone's happy.
I wouldn't know anything about that, but I have heard that it's very
I've heard the good things. But yeah, man, I think Wyatt Johnson is sick. 24 tucks, I think, maybe, or something like that. You've seen that shot, dude. Let's pencil him in for 60 points. Yeah. Up from 40 or whatever last year. Dutchy, I think maybe 50 something this past year, but 86 the year before that. Good point about the lines, but let's pencil Dutchy in for 75. I like that. So we got Wyatt up to 60. We got Dutchy up to 75. You got Otter, who is the best goalie, look at my lips, in the league, which is fantastic news if you're a Stars fan. The big question is, what are you getting from Ben and Sagan? Now, and ignore you should never ignore the shit, but if it's a locker room issue, fine. But if Ben gives you what he gave you last year, you don't really care about that contract. And you guys are sick and you're going to win the Central. But if he dips, and if Sagan dips at all, because he's on the low end of because what do you have, 50? If those guys dip, you're hurting a little bit. So that's my big question mark. Like, what can you count on from those two guys? Because those are great bounce back years this past year, and it made a lot of difference. And you got to keep an eye on that. And if they're not producing, then maybe you fucking trade them. I hadn't really thought that was on the table, but maybe it is. But I think this team is fucking scary in the West. I know it went bad against Vegas, but like, if you are in the West and because the Pacific's stacked and everyone's, I mean, we did our breakdown, but everyone's in the comments, like, Oilers Cup, Kings, whatever, in Vegas repeat, the Stars scare the shit out of me if I'm any team in the West.
Completely agree. At the end of the day, Dallas is a top 4 team in the West. And I don't think that is even debatable, because you have guys like Otter, Robo, Hintz, Heiskanen, Wyatt Johnson, who are all getting better and scarier. That is the core of your team too. So look out for Dallas. Anyone who comes up against them in any form, regular season, postseason, first round, second round, third round, doesn't matter. Dallas is dangerous, and it's very exciting.
I wish I had my Texas hockey shirt on. Okay, last team. The Colorado Avalanche won the Central last year. They finished from first place, going 51-24-7 for 109 points. If anyone's paying attention, they know what we're going to pick. So last year they were first. This year, Dan, in 3, 2, 1, second.
1, and that is obvious. Oh my God. Here's the deal.
Okay.
Actually, you go.
They're a dominant team. They employ the second best player in the league, which is a pretty sick thing to do if you were a hockey team. They lost some people, dude. They lost JT Compher, who never quite developed into what I thought he should have been, but that is I just thought he was going to be like literally one of the most elite players in the league. I thought that was such a steal pick, and it didn't quite get there, but he's a very good player, and that's a big loss. They lost Rodriguez. They lost Eller. Where did Eller go? Pitt? I think so.
I think you're right.
So they lost Rodriguez, lost Eller, lost Eric Johnson.
Yeah, Pitt. Good call.
Here's the good news. They still have Nate Dogg and the Moose and Kale and Taze and Nichushkin. Like they are stacked.
Dude, they have Arturi Lekkinen, they have Rojo, they have Ross Colton, they have Miles Wood. Like I'm going to put your brain in a blender in 2 seconds. So do whatever stupid little dance you want to do, saying that they're going to finish second, and then let me absolutely fucking body bag you like the plebeian you are.
The question is, it was all about goalies for me. I told you at the top, Central was all about goalies for me. I put a lot of chips on Hellebuck. I put a lot of chips on Otter. Georgiev was actually nasty last year, and I think that you win the cup with a goalie and change goalies. Everyone was shocked last year, and Georgiev I thought was just tremendous and completely lived up to the hype. So if he's that good again, this team is fucking sick again. I'm kind of rolling on the Otter train of like he'll just do it for him. He'll put in a season that just does it for him. But I need people to know, listeners to know, I'm not saying the Avs are second and it's a distant second. I'm like, oh, this is a bloodbath between the Avs and Dallas, and I think the Dallas Stars clip them by a point strictly because of Otter. But this Avalanche team is fucking dope,
dude. They're so good. So basically, I know I keep hitting everyone with the cap, but like. This team, no cap, they're right up against it. In fact, they're over a little bit. They've got Landy and his $7 million on LTIR, which is brutal. Landy's not going to play this entire season, which is just like utterly devastating.
Is that true?
So that is
he's out the whole year?
Yes, presumably, which again, like I'm so sad about that.
That's a factor, dude. That's a huge factor.
It's a huge factor. I think the Compher loss is a huge factor. Everyone knows I'm very, very high on him. I think he's going to have such a good year in Detroit, but we're talking about the Avs right now. They get Ryan Johansson in that bizarre Galchenyuk trade. That was like the weirdest deal of all time. If you don't think Ryan Johansson is going to have a big glow up from last season playing with all of these guys, you are outside your damn mind. So that is absolutely big. He's probably going to replace JT in that center role. Ross Colton is a huge add. Everyone who looks at this Tampa Bay Lightning team over the last 4 or 5 years, you look at their middle to bottom 6 guys who are playing on entry-level deals and playing outside of their minds. They then move on and they become such huge factors on the teams they go to. Ross Colton is going to do that here with this Colorado team, playing with absolutely unbelievable people. They added Miles Wood. Miles Wood is a gritty, fantastic middle 6, bottom 6 player who is going to fit in perfectly with this team. Cogliano came back. Bowen Byram, who's my boy, a Stanley Cup parade legend, 22-year-old defenseman. He is going to come back from the injury. He just signed a 2-year extension. He had 24 points in 42 games. Let's call that a 40 or so point season from the blue line. That's a monster year from a 21-year-old. He's 22 now. He's not going to be injured. He is going to be better. Jonathan Drouin, one of our favorite former first-round picks who bounces around the league, shapes up to be a guy who signs a 1-year deal with Colorado, is all of a sudden playing with guys like Nate Dogg, and elements of his game get unlocked that people haven't seen. I think Georgiev is amazing. I think Francouz is a good backup. I think that this team is going to be healthy all year, all things going the right way for Colorado. And they're going to remind everyone why they are the Stanley Cup winning team from 2 years ago that they were. And Chris, you talked about how good this team is. We just talked about all of these players rattling down their team: McKinnon, Rantanen, Nichushkin, Lekkinen, Ryan Johansson, Ross Colton, Miles Wood. Logan O'Connor, Cogliano, Cale Makar, Sammy Gerard, Josh Manson, Devon Taves, Bowen Byram. Unbelievable players. Let me just give you their ages real quick. 28, 26, 28, 28, 31, 26, 27, 27, 36, 28, 24, 27, 24, 25, 31, 29, 22, 29. This team is so fucking young and so good. And these guys, like, the biggest issue for them is Devon Taves is up next year. That is a big deal. But Devon Taves is 29 years old, but he's probably looking at $8 million a year. So they're going to have to figure that out. But then other than that, it's bottom guys. Like Moose isn't up until the year after next. Like they are this team for the foreseeable future. And like they are just so fucking good and so young. They've got to be first place. I'm sorry. It's just the reality.
I don't hate it, dude. We had joked last season that the Avs had that cup hangover, and then we're just like slowly chug. Here they come. And we called early. I forget when exactly. We called early. Like the Avs are winning that division, by the way, even though they're 1,000 points out. Like they were out of the playoffs a decent chunk of the way into the year. And I was like, they're going to win the Central. It's not even a question.
Yeah. So, and I'm so proud of us for that. Like we could have easily hopped on the hot take train and been like, oh my God, the Avs are terrible. It's the cup hangover. They're dead. And we were like, no, they're just injured and they're going to be fine and they're going to win. And then choo-choo-ka-choo, they came through and fucking absolutely shit pumped people. And there they are.
People are forgetting this, I think. I would, and I was the spunkiest. I was Spunky Brewster, bro. I was the spunkiest guy last playoffs. But I would be fascinated to see how those Western playoffs would have shaken out had the Avs got past Seattle there. Like, let's say they win that Game 7 and they are unleashed on the rest of the playoffs. Like, are they not winning the cup? Fucking maybe. So this team is, I kind of still think, I know I just kind of called my shot that Dallas is winning the cup this year, but this team feels like the hard out, the hardest out. If you're in the West, if you're like, oh my God,
definitely, dude.
It almost still runs through Colorado to me, even though Vegas is the defending champs and did so in dominant fashion. It almost still runs through Colorado.
And let me tell you what, man, if you don't think Nate Dogg is coming in with the fire of 1,000 suns after getting bounced in the first round by an expansion team, you are a moron. So
no one has even looked at a soda since last June.
Oh, dude, Colorado is coming in hot and they're winning the Central.
Okay, so I got Dallas, Avs, Jets, Preds, Yotes, Hawks, Blues.
And I got Avs, Stars, Wild, Preds, Jets, Yotes, Blues, Hawks. Look for the Yotes to make some noise.
Yeah, I like want a little wall five about the Yotes?
Yeah, dude. Wall five.
Boom. Wall five. Okay, that's the Central breakdown. I'm feeling pretty good.
That is it for the Central breakdown. That is it for us this week abroad in Ibiza. Say it with me, Chris.
Ibiza, Dan. Ibiza.
That is it for us here. Guys, stay logged in. Stay dialed with us because this is exciting stuff. We are getting closer and closer and closer, almost a month away from the season. So we're going to keep hitting you with these division breakdowns and predictions. And until then,
and no matter where you are, skate hard.